Let's talk a little bit more about what you found helpful during the recovery and rehabilitation period. One of the things I think you said was you were keeping a note or journal of what was happening, and you brought the journal today, I think.
Yes.
How did you come about that idea?
Well, I think there's so much going through your mind, and you don't want to remember it. It's the last thing you really want to remember, but in a funny sort of way, you do want to remember it. So I thought, well, if I put it down, it's helping to get it out my system. And as I say, before I was diagnosed, I was a very big reader. I used to read a lot of books, the Daniel Steele novels and things like that. And I never read again. I just put this book down and that was it. I never read again. And then one day I thought, I'm going to put it down on paper. And I started writing from the day that, I was diagnosed right through to basically what I'm like now. And I found it a great help. And one or two people have read it, they've said the same, this is wonderful, I wish I'd have done it. Because although you don't want to go back to it, but I think in my case, with it having a nice happy ending, it is nice to look back and think, oh my God, did that happen? Did I go through that? And I'm still here, so.
Well, it can be easy to forget how much you've been through in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So did you know, various patients have actually written their experience into books, their whole story?
No, I never knew anyone that had done it.
Yeah,
no one.
They're available
because I think, like I say, you either get this scary bit where I don't want to be associated with it anymore. I've had enough of it. I think each individual copes with it in their own way. And I found with this, I don't know, it helped. I know it sounds silly, but.
We also have our own written program which supplements the video diary, which we're putting together right now, which is basically a brief synopsis of what people have been through. So it's interesting that you came across that spontaneously and you found it helpful. And other people also said that it was helpful as well.
Yes.
Another thing you were saying was about certain plants in the garden being, if you like, symbolic of the cancer. What was that?
Well, I think a lot of it's to do with the chemo, because I really do think the chemo gets in your brain and you tend to exaggerate everything that's going off. I mean, my husband had only got to go for a paper and my God, he'd gone, where's he gone, And if he was 5 minutes late or anything, everything had concocted, in my mind. And we had this plant in the garden, we called it a Schumacher. It was with very large red cones, most beautiful plant you can have, and it grows into a tree. But it also lets off little tiny shoots, and these little shoots are everywhere in the garden. Everywhere you look, there's one growing. And I used to get my daughter up, she was with me at the time, going through this horrible journey, and I used to get her up to pull these up, because I just related it to my stomach, that this horrible cancer was like these Schumacher plants just shooting up anywhere. And so this plant became a nightmare to me. And I think to my daughter as well.
Did you manage to keep it in check during that time?
Well, we did, because Mandy kept pulling them up. Because with having the chemo on my arm, you couldn't go in the garden. You were very, susceptible to cuts and grazes and bites. You had to be very, very careful with, getting infections in that. So I couldn't pull them up, so poor Mandy had to go out and Dave pull them up. But it was an absolute nightmare to me. But I think it was all, I don't know, the chemo, it probably does things to your head, I don't know. But